My name is Jose, and at 20 years old I never imagined my own sister would orchestrate my downfall. We grew up sharing everything, secrets, laughter, even our parents' love, until the day she methodically framed me, turned my family against me, and watched as I was thrown out barefoot onto the cold pavement. The worst part: weeks later she bragged about destroying my life, never knowing my mother was just around the corner, hearing every single word. Before I get into how my own sister destroyed my life, drop a comment, letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. I grew up in a middle-class suburban neighborhood in Arizona, where cactus gardens decorated front yards and summer temperatures regularly topped 100 degrees. My father, Thomas, worked as a construction manager for a reputable company that built luxury homes across Phoenix. He would come home tired, covered in dust, but always had time to toss a baseball with me in our modest backyard. My mother, Sophia, a dedicated nurse at Banner University Medical Center, worked night shifts, but somehow managed to prepare home-cooked meals and attend my school events. They created a stable, loving household through sacrifice and dedication. My younger sister, Bella, was 18 months younger than me, with the same dark hair and brown eyes that marked us clearly as siblings. To outsiders, she appeared sweet, thoughtful, and academically gifted. She maintained a perfect grade point average while participating in debate club and community service projects. Teachers adored her, and she had a knack for making adults feel she was mature beyond her years. What people outside our home never saw were the manipulation tactics, the crocodile tears, and the subtle ways she created conflict, then positioned herself as the reasonable peacemaker. Throughout high school, I maintained a 3.8 GPA while working weekends at the local hardware store. Every dollar I earned went into my college fund or helped with household expenses when things got tight. During my senior year, when Dad temporarily lost his job during the housing market downturn, I gave them my entire savings, $4,000, to help cover the mortgage. I never mentioned it again or expected repayment. It was just what family did for each other. Our household operated on clearly defined rules and expectations. Chores were divided equally. Curfews strictly enforced, and academics came before socializing. My parents believed in raising responsible adults, not entitled children. While some of my friends complained about their strict parents, I understood the structure came from a place of love and wanting us to succeed. When I received my acceptance letter to Arizona State University with a partial scholarship, the entire family celebrated with a backyard barbecue. Dad grilled his famous marinated skirt steak, while Mom prepared her homemade salsa and guacamole. Even Bella seemed genuinely happy for me, offering a rare, sincere hug and helping decorate with university colors. Looking back, I realized that night was the last time we truly felt like a united family. The summer before college started, subtle changes began. Items in the house were moved or misplaced. Small amounts of money disappeared from wallets. Nothing major enough to cause serious concern, just annoyances that created tension. Whenever these incidents were discussed, Bella would offer helpful suggestions about where to look or gently remind everyone about the importance of being organized. She positioned herself as the problem solver while planting seeds of doubt about my reliability. I dismissed the early warning signs of trouble. When Mom mentioned $20 missing from her purse and glanced at me questioningly, I shrugged it off as a miscalculation. When Dad could not find his favorite watch, only to discover it in the bathroom drawer where he never put it, I did not connect the dots. Even when my own belongings began disappearing only to reappear in strange places, I blamed my own absent-mindedness rather than suspecting deliberate sabotage. By the time fall semester started, I had secured a part-time job at the university bookstore that worked around my class schedule. Between studying, working, and maintaining family obligations, I was exhausted but determined to succeed. My parents expected excellence, and I was committed to making them proud. Meanwhile, Bella had started her senior year of high school. and was already receiving recruitment letters from prestigious universities across the country, including several with full scholarship offers. That September, during a family dinner celebrating Mom's promotion to nursing supervisor, I noticed Bella watching me with an expression I could not quite identify. It was not quite jealousy or anger, something more calculating. When I asked her later if everything was okay between us, she smiled sweetly and said, "Of course, Jose. You are the best brother anyone could ask for." Her words said one thing, but her eyes communicated something entirely different. I should have trusted that instinct. The first significant incident occurred in October, when my laptop charger vanished. I needed it urgently to complete an assignment due the following morning. After searching my room thoroughly, I asked everyone in the house if they had seen it. Dad suggested I be more responsible with my belongings, while Mom reminded me about the cost of replacing electronics. Bella offered to help search, making a show of looking in obvious places before suggesting perhaps I had left it at the university library. After hours of frustration, I borrowed a classmate's charger, completed my work, then found my own charger plugged in behind Bella's desk the next day. When confronted, she expressed surprise and suggested perhaps she had absent-mindedly picked it up thinking it was hers. The following week, my calculus textbook disappeared right before a major exam. After tearing apart my room and car, I had to spend $70. I could not afford to purchase a digital version. 3 days later, the original textbook mysteriously reappeared on the living room bookshelf, where it had never been stored. When I mentioned this strange occurrence at dinner, Dad frowned and suggested I needed to be more organized with my study materials. Then came the missing wallet incident. After a family dinner at a local restaurant where I had paid the bill, my wallet containing my ID credit cards and $200 in cash vanished. I distinctly remembered placing it in my jacket pocket. The entire family helped search the restaurant and parking lot before driving home in tense silence. 2 days of panic and administrative hassle followed as I canceled cards and applied for replacement identification. Then mysteriously, my wallet appeared in the washing machine after Bella helpfully offered to do a load of laundry that included my jacket. She suggested I must have forgotten it was in there despite my certainty about where I had placed it. The situation escalated when my father discovered $60 missing from the cash envelope he kept in his bedroom drawer for household expenses. During a tense family meeting, his gaze settled heavily on me. "Jose, if you needed money, you could have just asked instead of taking it," he said in a disappointed tone that cut deeper than anger would have. "Dad, I swear I did not take it," I protested. "I would never steal from you." "Then who did your mother and I work hard for our money? Bella has her own allowance and has never given us reason to distrust her." The implication was clear. By process of elimination, I had become the suspected thief in my own home. Bella sat quietly during this conversation, her expression appropriately concerned, but not accusatory. Only when I looked directly at her did I catch a fleeting smile before she composed her features again. Strange text messages began appearing in my friends' phones, seemingly from my number. My best friend, since elementary school, Anthony, approached me at the university cafeteria, looking uncomfortable. "Dude, why did you text Zach's girlfriend asking for her number, saying you want to take her out? You know they have been together for 2 years. "What, I never sent any such message," I said, confused. Anthony showed me his phone where a group chat displayed messages from my number making inappropriate comments about several female friends. I felt physically sick reading words I had never written. I did not send these, man. Someone must have used my phone or hacked my account. Anthony looked skeptical but nodded slowly. "Just be careful with your phone then." Zach is furious. The social fallout was immediate. Friends began avoiding me or responding with cold formality. Party invitations stopped. Study group members made excuses about why I could not join them. A girl I had been interested in dating blocked my number after apparently receiving vulgar messages from me that I never sent. At a cousin's birthday party, I overheard two aunts whispering about how I had changed since starting college and become arrogant and disrespectful. When I approached them to say hello, their smiles seemed forced, their hugs briefer than usual. Later, I discovered someone had been sending rude messages to extended family members from my social media accounts, declining invitations with fabricated excuses and making dismissive comments about family traditions. The isolation grew as my reputation unraveled through no fault of my own. Each day brought new accusations, lost connections, and deepening suspicion from my parents. Sleep became elusive as anxiety consumed my nights. My grades began slipping as I became increasingly paranoid about what might happen next. The person I had been all my life was being systematically erased and replaced with a fictitious character I did not recognize, but for whom I was being held accountable. One afternoon in November, I returned early from class to find Bella sitting on my bed with my phone in her hands. She jumped when I entered, nearly dropping the device. "What are you doing with my phone?" I demanded. "Oh, you scared me," she laughed nervously. "Your phone kept buzzing with notifications while you were gone. I thought it might be important, so I was just going to bring it to you at school." "How did you unlock it?" "The phone was password protected." Before she could answer, Mom called from downstairs about a plumbing emergency in the kitchen. Water was apparently spraying everywhere from under the sink. Bella rushed past me, effectively ending our confrontation. By the time I helped deal with the water situation, which oddly stopped completely just as I reached the kitchen, Bella had disappeared to a friend's house. When I checked my phone, I discovered several new messaging apps installed and unfamiliar conversations with people I did not know. Arguments with my parents became daily occurrences. They questioned my late nights at the library, suspicious of my explanation that I needed the quiet study environment. They expressed concern about my new friends, who were apparently a bad influence according to messages they had received, messages I never sent. My father began checking the mileage on my car against my reported whereabouts, and my mother would sniff suspiciously near me when I returned home, apparently checking for alcohol or marijuana. My midterm grades reflected my deteriorating mental state, 2 C's and a D, in courses where I had previously excelled. When the university emailed my parents about my academic performance, as permitted under my scholarship terms, it triggered a 3-hour lecture about responsibility and gratitude. Throughout the ordeal, Bella sat nearby, occasionally offering supportive comments like, "Jose is smart. He can turn this around," while simultaneously reinforcing my parents' concerns with comments like, "But I am worried about the people he has been hanging out with, too." The situation at my part-time job deteriorated when small amounts of cash began disappearing from the register during my shifts. Despite camera footage showing nothing conclusive, the manager began scheduling me for fewer hours and watching me with obvious suspicion. I could not understand how these thefts were occurring until I caught a glimpse of someone who looked remarkably like Bella near the store entrance during one of the days money went missing. When I mentioned this possibility to my manager, he looked at me with pity and suggested I not drag my innocent sister into my problems. Desperate to understand what was happening, I purchased a basic security camera with my dwindling savings and hid it on my bookshelf, angled toward my desk and doorway. I told no one about this precaution. For 3 days, the footage showed nothing unusual until Thursday afternoon, when I was scheduled for a 4-hour lab session. The video clearly showed Bella entering my room, methodically searching through my belongings, accessing my laptop using a password I had never shared, and copying files onto a flash drive. Most disturbing was the moment she held up my credit card to the light, appearing to photograph or memorize the details before carefully returning everything exactly as she had found it. The calculated precision of her actions revealed this was no isolated incident but part of a systematic campaign. That evening, I confronted her with the video evidence while our parents were still at work. "Why are you doing this to me?" I asked, showing her the footage on my phone. Bella's transformation was immediate and frightening. Her face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks as she collapsed onto the sofa. "I was just trying to find my earring that I thought I lost in your room. You are always so suspicious of me, Jose. Why do you hate me so much? Why are you trying to turn everyone against me?" Her performance was so convincing that for a moment, I almost doubted what I had seen with my own eyes. Then our parents walked in earlier than expected to find Bella sobbing uncontrollably and me standing over her with a confused expression. "What did you do to your sister, Dad?" demanded, rushing to Bella's side. "He put a camera in his room to spy on all of us." Bella managed between dramatic sobs. "He is accusing me of crazy things. He thinks I am trying to ruin his life. I installed the camera because my things keep disappearing, and look what it caught." I tried to explain, offering my phone with the video. Dad waved it away without looking. "Enough with the accusations. Your sister would never do the things you have been suggesting. You need to take responsibility for your own problems, instead of blaming her." Mom sat beside Bella, arm around her shoulders. "Jose, we are worried about you. Your behavior has changed so much these past few months. Is there something you need to tell us? Are you in some kind of trouble?" Their unified concern for Bella and suspicion toward me felt like a physical blow. The video evidence remained unwatched, as Bella's tears proved more compelling than my rational explanation. That night I heard my parents and Bella talking in hushed tones in the living room long after they thought I had gone to bed. The occasional mention of my name, followed by my mother's worried sighs, confirmed they were discussing me rather than talking to me about their concerns. The following week, family friends began treating me differently. Mrs. Rodriguez, our neighbor, who had known me since childhood, crossed the street to avoid passing me on the sidewalk. My father's co-worker at a home improvement store pointedly moved his children away when I approached. Someone had been spreading disturbing rumors about me throughout our community, painting me as unstable and potentially dangerous. Checking my social media accounts, I discovered someone had been sending threatening private messages to multiple people using my profiles. The messages contained language I would never use and referenced events I had never participated in. Changing my passwords provided only temporary relief before the unauthorized access resumed, suggesting Bella had installed keylogging software during her room invasions. With each passing day, the web of false evidence against me grew more complex and damning. I became a stranger in my own home, eating quickly and silently before retreating to my room or the public library. My parents' expressions shifted from disappointment to something closer to fear when they looked at me. The psychological warfare was taking its toll, and Bella, emboldened by her success, became less careful about hiding her satisfaction when another piece of my life crumbled. December 18th marked the final day of my first college semester. Despite the chaos enveloping my life, I had managed to salvage passing grades through exhaustive last-minute studying and appealing directly to professors. Emotionally drained, but relieved, the academic term was over. I returned home, planning to use the winter break to repair family relationships and gather more concrete evidence of Bella's campaign against me. What I found instead was my bedroom door standing open and the interior in complete disarray. Drawers had been emptied onto the floor. Mattress upended, closet contents scattered across every surface. My laptop was open screen, cracked as if dropped or thrown. For several stunned moments, I stood in the doorway, unable to process the destruction. "Mom, Dad," I called out, receiving no response. Moving through the chaos, I discovered my most valuable possessions. Missing the watch my grandfather left me before he died, $300 in emergency cash, hidden in my desk, and the external hard drive containing all my academic work and personal photographs. Even more concerning was the absence of my college fund lockbox that had contained nearly $3,000 saved from my part-time jobs over 2 years. As I was still cataloging the losses, the front door opened and closed. Heavy footsteps in the hallway announced my father's arrival, followed by my mother and Bella. Their expressions as they appeared in my doorway ranged from my father's barely contained fury to my mother's tearful distress and Bella's wide-eyed performance of shock. "What have you done to your room?" Dad demanded, voice dangerously quiet. "I did not do this," I insisted. "It was like this when I got home. Someone has taken my savings and valuables. Someone like who Jose we were all out together for the past 4 hours." Before I could respond, Dad held up his hand and gestured for me to follow the family downstairs. In the living room, he pointed to his car keys on the coffee table. "Open your car trunk," he ordered. "What?" "Why?" "Just do it, Jose." Confused but seeing no alternative, I led the group to my car, parked in the driveway. With trembling hands, I unlocked the trunk, unprepared for what was revealed. Mom's missing diamond earrings and pearl necklace, Dad's collectible coins and rare baseball cards, and $200 in cash, all items that had mysteriously disappeared over recent months. Most damning was Bella's laptop, which she had tearfully reported stolen from her locker at school the previous week. "This is not. I did not put these here." I stammered, genuine shock making my voice break. "Someone planted them. I would never steal from you." "Enough lies." Dad roared, his patience finally shattered. "We found your search history, Jose. The websites about pawning jewelry and electronics. The forums about how to sell items without identification. What I never searched for any of that." Mom stepped forward, her expression a mixture of fear and profound disappointment. "We also found threatening messages you wrote to your sister. The things you said you would do to her if she told us about the stealing." Bella stood slightly behind our parents, trembling visibly with tears streaming down her face. The performance was Oscar-worthy, complete with occasional full-body shudders and whispered pleas of, "Please do not let him hurt me." "Show me these messages," I demanded. "I never threatened anyone." Dad pulled out his phone and displayed a series of text exchanges, allegedly between Bella and me. The messages showed me demanding she keep quiet about items I was taking, threatening violent consequences if she reported anything. The language was crude, angry, nothing like how I communicated. "That is not me," I insisted. "I never wrote any of this. Bella is setting me up. She has been accessing my accounts for months, turning everyone against me. The camera footage I tried to show you proves it." "The camera you installed to spy on your sister in her private moments," Dad countered. "We found those videos too, Jose. The neighbors, your friends, even your boss have contacted us about your increasingly disturbing behavior." "What videos?" "The only footage shows her going through my things." My protests fell on deaf ears as a coordinated character assassination reached its culmination. Every explanation I offered was countered by evidence that had been meticulously manufactured and planted over months. My parents had been methodically turned against me, their trust deliberately poisoned by a campaign so thorough it left no room for doubt. "I cannot have you in this house anymore," Dad finally said, his voice flat and resolute. "Not with these thefts. Not with these threats against your sister. You are not the son we raised." "Dad, please." I begged, desperation overwhelming my pride. "Just look at the actual camera footage. Give me a chance to prove what is happening." "You need professional help," Jose Mom interjected, keeping physical distance between us. "We will support you getting that help, but you cannot stay here." Where am I supposed to go? Reality was crashing down around me. All my savings were in my room, and now they are gone. "You should have thought about consequences before stealing from your own family," Dad replied coldly. "Pack whatever belongs legitimately to you and be out within the hour." "Can I at least get my shoes from my room?" I asked, suddenly aware I was wearing only socks. "No more stalling. What you are wearing is enough. The neighbors have seen enough drama today." As my father gripped my upper arm and physically guided me toward the front door, I caught Bella's expression change when our parents were not looking. The tears vanished, replaced by a satisfied smirk that chilled me to my core. She had orchestrated my complete destruction and was savoring her victory. The front door opened, and with a firm push, I found myself standing on the porch. The door closed and locked with finality, leaving me in shocked silence. The December air bit through my thin t-shirt as I stood barefoot on the cold concrete, watching through the window as my family embraced Bella, comforting her for the trauma I had supposedly caused. Neighbors peered from windows and porches at the spectacle of me standing shoeless and coatless in the winter air. The humiliation burned hotter than any anger, as I realized how thoroughly I had been outmaneuvered by my own sister. With no money, no transportation, and no evidence to prove my innocence, I turned and walked away from the only home I had ever known, each barefoot step on the cold pavement, a reminder of how completely I had lost everything. The first night of homelessness remains etched in my memory as a blur of disbelief and desperate problem-solving. With nowhere to go and temperature dropping into the 40s, I walked 2 miles to a 24-hour diner where a sympathetic waitress named Diane allowed me to occupy a corner booth until morning. If I purchased coffee every hour, my feet raw from barefoot walking on cold pavement throbbed painfully under the table as I nursed each cup for exactly 60 minutes, trying to appear less pathetic than I felt. "Rough night, honey?" Diane asked during her third refill visit, eyeing my sockless feet and single-layer clothing. "Family disagreement." I managed pride, preventing me from explaining the full humiliating truth. She returned minutes later with a pair of worn sneakers. "My son left these when he moved out last year. About your size, I think. Better than nothing." That small kindness from a stranger broke something inside me, and I struggled to maintain composure while thanking her. The shoes were a size too large, but represented the first step toward survival. At sunrise, I used the diner's bathroom to wash my face, and called Anthony, my childhood friend who had become distant over recent months due to the false messages he had received. "I know this sounds crazy," I began after he reluctantly answered, "but I have been kicked out and need somewhere to crash for a couple days until I figure things out." His hesitation spoke volumes about how thoroughly my reputation had been poisoned. "I do not know, man. I have heard some concerning things." "None of it is true, Anthony. I can prove it if you just give me a chance." Perhaps it was our 15 years of friendship or the genuine desperation in my voice, but Anthony agreed to let me sleep on his apartment couch for 3 nights maximum. Those 72 hours became my window to begin rebuilding from absolute zero. During those 3 days, I created a new email account and phone number, applied for emergency student housing assistance, visited a campus food pantry, and secured a cash-paying warehouse job loading trucks on the overnight shift. The physical labor was exhausting, but offered 2 critical advantages: immediate payment and hours that would not interfere with continuing my education when the spring semester began. With my first night's wages, I purchased a prepaid phone card and called my mother while certain my father would be at work. She answered with cautious formality, her voice guarded. "Mom, I never stole anything or threatened Bella. Someone set me up. Please just check the timestamps on those threatening messages against my class schedule." I was in documented exams when many of them were sent. "Jose, I cannot do this right now," she whispered, emotion breaking through her reserve. "Your father has made his decision. Bella is still having nightmares." Before I could respond, she disconnected. The brief conversation confirmed my suspicion that even my mother, despite her obvious conflicted feelings, was not yet ready to consider my innocence. By day 4, Anthony's patience and hospitality were wearing thin. The constant calls and texts he received about harboring me suggested Bella had discovered my temporary refuge and was actively working to eliminate it. Rather than wait for the inevitable confrontation, I thanked him and moved into a shared apartment found through a Craigslist advertisement. My 3 new roommates, all strangers, all working various shift jobs, asked few questions about my situation, concerned only that my portion of rent arrived on time. The apartment was in a questionable neighborhood, far from campus, requiring a 90-minute bus commute each way. My room contained only a mattress on the floor, a plastic storage bin for clothes, and a wobbly desk salvaged from the apartment complex dumpster. Yet it represented independence and a base from which to rebuild. With secure housing established, I turned my attention to methodically gathering evidence about what had actually occurred. Creating a detailed timeline of events, I cross-referenced incidents against my documented whereabouts, identifying numerous impossibilities in the narrative constructed against me. The university library became my investigative headquarters. Between classes and work shifts, I researched digital forensics, learning how to document unauthorized access to my accounts. The campus IT department proved surprisingly helpful. When I explained I believed my accounts had been compromised, providing login histories that clearly showed access from devices not belonging to me during times I was verifiably elsewhere. A breakthrough came when a barista at the campus coffee shop mentioned seeing Bella using my laptop there several times. "I assumed she was your girlfriend," he explained. "She always used your name when ordering, saying she was picking up drinks for both of you." This external witness provided my first concrete evidence beyond my own suspicions. Gradually, I collected similar testimonies. A classmate who had seen Bella wearing my missing watch. A neighbor who observed her entering our house, carrying shopping bags. On days, items disappeared. A former coworker who remembered her visiting the bookstore shortly before money went missing from my register. The emotional toll of betrayal and homelessness manifested in unexpected ways. I lost 15 pounds from stress and irregular meals. Sleep became fragmented by nightmares of being chased from places of safety. Simple interactions with authority figures triggered disproportionate anxiety. My natural tendency toward optimism eroded, replaced by persistent vigilance and suspicion. Recognizing these symptoms as potentially debilitating if left unaddressed, I sought help through the university's counseling center. The free therapy sessions became crucial to maintaining functionality amid ongoing crisis. My counselor, Dr. Reynolds, helped me process the trauma without allowing it to define my identity or future. "What happened to you was an extreme betrayal," she observed during our 4th session. "But your response, this methodical rebuilding of your life from nothing, demonstrates extraordinary resilience. That resilience, not the victimization, is what defines you." Her perspective shift proved transformative. Rather than viewing myself as someone who had everything stolen, I began seeing myself as someone who could create something from nothing. Each small victory, maintaining my scholarship despite homelessness, receiving my first warehouse promotion, securing an additional campus job as a math tutor, reinforced this emerging identity. A small community of supporters gradually formed around me. My academic advisor advocated for emergency financial aid. A professor allowed me to borrow textbooks from his personal library. 2 classmates began inviting me for meals, recognizing the signs of food insecurity I tried to hide. These connections, though initially fragile, provided crucial emotional sustenance during the darkest period. 3 months into my exile, I had constructed a functional, if Spartan, life. My work schedule: warehouse loading from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., 2 hours of sleep classes from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., tutoring until 6 p.m., studying until 9 p.m., left little time for anything beyond survival and education. Yet I maintained a 3.6 GPA while working 40-plus hours weekly across multiple jobs. The investigation into Bella's deception continued as a background process, with each new piece of evidence carefully documented and preserved. I had no clear endgame for this information. The legal system seemed inappropriate for family matters, and my parents remained unwilling to communicate. Still, establishing the truth felt essential to my eventual emotional recovery, even if that truth never received public acknowledgement. What I could not anticipate was how dramatically that evidence would soon become relevant, or that the truth would emerge through Bella's own arrogance, rather than my painstaking documentation. On a Wednesday afternoon in March, 3 months and 8 days after my expulsion from home, my phone displayed an unexpected notification, a text message from my mother. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. "Jose, we need to talk. Can you meet somewhere?" The message, brief and non-committal, offered no context or apology. Still, it represented the first direct communication since December. I suggested a coffee shop equidistant from campus, and our family home, deliberately choosing neutral territory. When I arrived, my mother was already seated in a corner booth, her normally immaculate appearance showing subtle signs of strain. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her hair lacked its usual careful styling. She looked up as I approached, her expression cycling rapidly through multiple emotions: relief, uncertainty, guilt. "You look thin," she said by way of greeting. "Working nights while taking full classes will do that," I replied, sliding into the seat across from her. After ordering coffees, we sat in uncomfortable silence until Mom finally spoke. "Something happened yesterday that I need to discuss with you." She explained that she had returned home early from her shift with a migraine and was resting in her bedroom when Bella arrived with a friend, unaware of her presence in the house. Through the partially opened door, she overheard their conversation in the hallway. "I cannot believe they still have no idea it was you," Bella's friend said, laughing. "The perfect crime," Bella replied. "You should have seen his face when they found all that stuff in his car. I planted the jewelry the night before while he was studying at the library. Then just had to make sure Dad checked the trunk. What about all those messages? The threats?" "Easy. I installed a keylogger on his laptop months ago. Had access to everything. The threats I sent to myself from his phone while he was in the shower. Cried on command. When showing them to my parents, they believed every word." Mom's voice broke as she recounted hearing her daughter bragging about the elaborate frame-up. "She was laughing, Jose. Laughing about how you were thrown out barefoot in December. About how completely she destroyed your relationship with us. How you probably ended up homeless or had to drop out of college." The vindication I had imagined for months felt hollow in the face of my mother's obvious pain. "Why would she do this?" I asked quietly. She told her friend it started as jealousy over how proud we were of you getting into college with a scholarship, said we always favored you. But then it became like a game to her, seeing how far she could push it, how completely she could turn us against you. Mom wiped tears with a napkin. I confronted her after her friend left. She denied everything at first, but when I repeated her exact words, she broke down. Not in remorse, Jose, but in anger at being caught. My father, she explained, had not initially believed her account of the overheard conversation. His pride made accepting such a massive error in judgment difficult. He demanded proof beyond Mom's word. I showed him the evidence I found after searching Bella's room, Mom continued. Hidden in her closet. Your grandfather's watch, your external hard drive, even the cash box from your college fund. Empty, of course. She had spent the money. Dad had always been a man of firm convictions and few words. Learning he had unjustly condemned and disowned his innocent son had apparently left him alternating between explosive anger at Bella and silent, devastating guilt. He wants to see you, Mom said, to apologize in person, but he will understand if you refuse. The conversation I had imagined countless times during sleepless nights was unfolding differently than expected. In my fantasies, vindication brought triumphant satisfaction. In reality, It brought a complicated mix of relief, lingering hurt, and unexpected concern for my parents' emotional state. "I will meet with him," I said finally. "But not at the house. Not yet." 2 days later, we gathered at a quiet park, neutral ground for this fragile reconnection. Dad arrived first, standing awkwardly by a bench, looking simultaneously smaller and older than my memory of him. When he saw me approaching, his stoic facade crumbled. Without words, he embraced me with desperate intensity, his body shaking with silent sobs. No verbal apology could have communicated remorse more powerfully than that uncharacteristic emotional display. When we finally sat to talk, Dad explained the aftermath of Mom's discovery. Bella had eventually confessed everything when confronted with physical evidence. Though her confession lacked genuine remorse, she had methodically detailed her months-long campaign, seemingly proud of its intricacy despite being caught. "She told us she never intended it to go so far," Dad said, voice rough with emotion. "That she just wanted to create some doubt about you. Maybe get a little more attention. But then she saw how effectively it was working and could not stop." What Dad described aligned with the patterns I had documented: the missing items, manipulated social media, strategic distribution of false information, carefully falsified evidence, and well-timed emotional performances. Bella had leveraged her intimate knowledge of family dynamics to systematically destroy my credibility, anticipating exactly how each family member would react to manufactured evidence. "We have made arrangements for her to stay with your aunt while attending intensive therapy," Mom explained. "The psychologist suggested there may be more going on than simple jealousy. Some of her behaviors indicate concerning personality patterns that require professional intervention." The conversation eventually turned to practical matters. My parents offered immediate financial assistance and invited me to move back home. The car they had allowed Bella to use after my departure would be returned to me. All reasonable offers of restitution, yet I found myself hesitating. "I appreciate everything you are offering," I said carefully, "but I think I need time to process this. The past 3 months have changed me. Moving back feels like rewinding to a relationship dynamic that no longer fits who I have become." Their disappointed expressions revealed they had anticipated immediate reconciliation, underestimating how profoundly trust had been damaged. Still, they respected my decision, offering instead to help with apartment expenses and tuition while maintaining appropriate boundaries. As we prepared to leave, Dad asked the question I sensed had been haunting him. "Can you ever forgive us, Jose? For believing the worst about you without proper investigation, for the way we treated you?" The question deserved honest reflection rather than a platitude. "I am working toward forgiveness," I answered truthfully. "Not there yet, but working toward it." What hurt most was not just being falsely accused, but how easily 30 years of trust and love were discarded. "That will take time to rebuild." He nodded, accepting this partial answer as the most I could honestly offer. As we parted ways, I realized the truth had been revealed, not through my meticulous evidence gathering, but through Bella's own arrogance. Her need to boast about her perfect crime becoming its ultimate undoing. The path toward healing proved neither straightforward nor quick. Despite my parents' sincere apologies and offers of complete restoration, I maintained my independent living arrangement. The warehouse apartment, once a symbol of desperate circumstances, had transformed into a space representing hard-won self-reliance. Returning home would have felt like surrendering that newly discovered strength. My decision disappointed them initially, particularly my father, who struggled to understand why financial support and verbal apologies were insufficient to restore our previous relationship. During one difficult conversation, I tried to explain my perspective. "It is not about punishing you or holding a grudge," I told him. "This experience forced me to become self-sufficient in ways I never imagined. Moving back would feel like erasing that growth, like pretending these months never happened." Gradually, we established new relationship patterns. Sunday dinners became our weekly reconnection point. My mother and I spoke by phone several times weekly. My father and I rebuilt our bond through practical projects, working side by side, repairing my apartment or maintaining my car, conversations flowing more naturally alongside shared tasks. The financial assistance they provided allowed me to reduce my punishing work schedule. Instead of 40-plus weekly hours across multiple jobs, I maintained just the warehouse position for 20 hours weekly, using the reclaimed time for proper rest studies and rebuilding a social life. My GPA rose accordingly, and professors noted the return of my previous academic enthusiasm. Addressing the psychological impact required professional help beyond what supportive friends or family could provide. With my parents covering the cost, I began regular sessions with a therapist specializing in family trauma. Dr. Lindsay helped me navigate complicated feelings, the lingering anger toward my sister, residual hurt from my parents' ready dismissal of my character, and uncertainty about appropriate boundaries moving forward. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the harm never occurred, she emphasized during one pivotal session. It means making a conscious choice not to let that harm determine your future. It is about your healing, not absolving others of responsibility. This framework helped me move forward without feeling I was betraying my own experience by reconnecting with my parents. Forgiveness became a private, internal process rather than a performative declaration for others' benefit. Bella's situation evolved along a separate track. After 3 months with my aunt, she entered an intensive residential treatment program. The professional assessment suggested her behavior stemmed from a complex intersection of extreme sibling rivalry entitled thinking patterns and concerning personality traits that required specialized intervention. While I maintained appropriate distance from her recovery process, my parents kept me informed of significant developments. 6 months after the truth emerged, I agreed to a mediated family session, including Bella. The controlled environment with a professional facilitator provided safety for this delicate initial reconnection. When Bella entered the therapist's office, she appeared noticeably different, less polished, more subdued, almost uncertain. "I do not expect forgiveness," she began after several minutes of facilitated conversation. "What I did was calculated, sustained, and deliberately cruel. The therapists here have helped me understand there is something fundamentally broken in how I process emotions and relationships. I am working to repair that, though it may take years." Her acknowledgement, while not erasing the harm caused, represented a level of self-awareness previously absent. The facilitator guided us through a structured conversation that established clear boundaries and expectations moving forward. We would not immediately resume a typical sibling relationship, but rather begin with carefully managed, limited interactions, focused on accountability and rebuilding basic trust. My personal recovery continued on multiple fronts. Academically, I regained my scholarship status and added a second major in cybersecurity, inspired partly by my experience with digital privacy violations. Professionally, my warehouse supervisor recognized my work ethic and problem-solving abilities, offering a management track position with flexible hours accommodating my education. Socially, I rebuilt friendships damaged by false information with many friends, offering sincere apologies for doubting my character. The unexpected gifts emerging from trauma became increasingly apparent. Before this experience, I had been capable but somewhat dependent, operating within the safety net of family support. Adversity had forced self-reliance, resilience, and clarity about personal values that might otherwise have taken decades to develop. 1 year after being thrown out barefoot onto cold pavement, my life had transformed completely. I maintained my own apartment now, in a better neighborhood, and properly furnished. My academic performance had earned recognition from the university. My newly established boundaries with family reflected thoughtful intention rather than reactive distance. Most importantly, I had developed an unshakable self-trust and confidence in my ability to weather life's challenges. During a contemplative moment at Sunday dinner now, a comfortable, regular tradition, my mother observed the changes. "You carry yourself differently now," she noted. "More centered somehow. When everything external is stripped away, you discover what truly belongs to you," I replied. "Not possessions or relationships, but your core character and capabilities." That night, walking alone under stars that had witnessed both my devastation and resurrection, I reflected on the profound lesson this journey had taught me. Our greatest strength often emerges precisely when we believe ourselves most broken. The barefoot walk away from everything familiar had ultimately led to finding my own path. The betrayal that once defined my story had become merely its catalyst. The real story was about rebuilding resilience and reclaiming personal power. While I would never choose to relive those painful months, I recognized they had forged something valuable within me that no future crisis could take away. An unshakable knowledge of my own capacity to begin again regardless of circumstances. What about you? Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did it change your perspective on relationships or your approach to trust? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Remember that sometimes our most painful experiences become the foundation for our greatest strength. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you resilience through whatever challenges you might be facing.